Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon, and we're going to talk about the state of digital journalism and how it looks like it's going to get a lot worse for a lot of journalists because Google is having a bit of a dispute with the state of California. Apparently, California wanted to initiate what is being described as a link tax. So to further compensate journalists and websites, California thinks it's a good idea in this economy to effectively extort Google and make them pay every time somebody clicks on a link to their website. I'm not talking about scraping content. That's a different thing. They're not scraping the content. Yes, if Google sends somebody to your website, they're expected to pay for that. So not only are you getting the benefit of Google sending traffic to your website, but then Google has to pay, which to me does not make a lot of sense. It just feels like a lot of these newsrooms are so desperate for revenue at this point that they're going to try to extort Google, and it's not going well for them. Google, and this is one of the times I actually do agree with Google, Google's like, well, fine, we're just not going to send any traffic to your websites that are based in California. That's how it's going to be, guys. But this is going to be another blow for journalism, which we've talked about. We actually did 2 videos yesterday talking about how things are really, really bad right now in digital media, especially. And now is the worst possible time to be threatening Google when websites are having a hard enough time getting traffic from Google because of the last couple of algorithm updates. And I have to wonder now if part of the thought process behind those algorithm updates was to become independent of sending traffic to websites that could actually turn around and try to extort you for money later. Because of a handful of people complaining, everybody's being penalized now. I don't know. That's just a thought process. We're gonna talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, go out, check out the audio edition of Clownfish TV. Wherever you find podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, Castbox, I think is one. I don't know. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we are there. We also have the D-Res podcast, which is longer podcasts. They're interviews usually. And we're going to be ramping up the content over there as well. So we've talked about this at length. Let's kind of walk it back a little bit. Right now, digital media especially is having an existential crisis. Their existence is on the line. We've talked about all the journalists that have gotten laid off, especially in entertainment, because it is probably the most disposable news media out there. And a lot of the reason why people are freaking out in journalism is Google has had several updates over the last year or so that has significantly changed their algorithm. Probably the biggest changes in the Google algorithm in 20 years. I mean, it seems like it. They're saying it's to filter out low quality sites. Actually, what I think it's doing is to prioritize Google content and sort of knock down the dependence on external websites. Now, is Google taking website content and scraping it and turning it into AI snippets? Yes, they are. They're also prioritizing YouTube videos and anything that's in-house, right? They're prioritizing it. And that way, Google is kind of becoming a publisher, right? They're like, we're going to prioritize our own content. We're not really a true search engine anymore. But it's a prerogative. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. It's not good news for website owners. And we do own multiple websites, and our traffic's been decimated. I mean, we had to lay people off. I hate doing it. But it's just not there. The traffic's not there. Google's not sending traffic to external websites like they used to. Some people are speculating it's because they want to keep more in-house, but I'm thinking that is honestly probably a big part of it. I think that they're going to try to push people to Google products where they can monetize them better. And some people said that they're trying to get rid of AI search results. I think that might also be part of it. But I'm starting to think that this link tax might be part of it as well. I think that publishers putting the pressure on Google, news outlets putting the pressure on Google to pay them every time they send. every time they send someone to your site where you're going to make money anyway off of ad revenue, right? Which Google gets a cut of that too. I mean, I'm just saying, but you're going to also charge Google for that. It used to be the other way around where you pay to advertise on Google and they send traffic to your website, and then you guys, share the profit or whatever. And it was that way for years. I don't know why they think this is a good idea, but it's coming out of California. And before that was Canada, and Google actually settled with them, I guess. But we saw several Canadian newsrooms shutter. We saw a lot of websites up there just collapse because if Google's not sending traffic to your site and you've spent the last 10 or 20 years making Google your primary, driver of traffic, that's kind of on you on some level. You know what I'm saying? Like if like 2/3 of your traffic is coming from Google and then you threaten Google that you want Google to pay you for sending links, like that's not right now when everybody's getting laid off. Right now, it's not a good time to do that. So let's let's talk about this. This is come from NPR, which itself is hurting. Google blocks California news in response to bill that would force the tech giant to pay. And boy, it'd be a real shame if like almost all the media outlets were based out of California. In fact, I know Geo Media moved AV Club to California. They had a fit about that. Google has started blocking news articles for some people in California, the company announced on Friday. Let's see what they said about it. Why the California Journalism Preservation Act is putting support of the news ecosystem at risk. A pending bill in the California State Legislature, the California Journalism Preservation Act, would create a link tax that would require Google to pay for simply connecting Californians to news articles. Yeah, see, I don't agree with that. I mean, you can complain about Google, and we've complained about Google and some of their practices, but I think that's stupid. I think it's really stupid, and I think it's desperate. Basically, these news outlets aren't making the money they used to make. People aren't reading their websites as much as they used to, so now they're going to put pressure on Google, which has historically been their primary source of traffic. Like, what's the old saying? Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Don't shit where you eat. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. We have long said that this is the wrong approach to supporting journalism. If passed, CJPA may result in significant changes to the services we can offer Californians and the traffic we can provide to California publishers. Again, a lot of the news outlets are based out of California. By helping people find news stories, we help publishers of all sizes grow their audiences at no cost to them. CJPA would upend that model. It would favor media conglomerates and hedge funds who have been lobbying for this bill and could use funds from CJPA to continue to buy up local California newspapers, strip them of journalists, and create more ghost papers that operate with a skeleton crew to produce low-cost, low-quality content. That actually is true, and that's going on with websites too. Like not even newspapers. Like, this big website that you're like, oh, it's a big website, whatever, and it's got like 5 people working there, and they're outsourcing a lot of their content to like India or something. CJPA would also put small publishers at a disadvantage and limit consumers' access to a diverse local media ecosystem, as we've shared with other countries who have considered similar proposals. Yes, Canada, Germany, I think is one. The uncapped financial exposure created by the CJPA would be unworkable. If enacted, CJPA in its current form would create a level of business uncertainty that no company could accept. To prepare for possible CJPA implications, we're beginning a short-term test for a small percentage of California users. The testing process involves removing links to California news websites potentially covered by CJPA to measure the impact of the legislation on our product experience. Translation, we're going to test this and we're going to show you what happens when you decide to turn Google traffic off to your websites. Do you still want to fuck around? Do you still want to find out? That's what they're saying. And again, this is on all of us for putting all of our eggs into the Google basket. But now that we've done that, it's going to be very, very hard to detangle from that situation. I mean, you're basically depending on Google for almost all your traffic, or a good portion of it, and you're also monetizing your website with Google Ads. You basically work for Google. I mean, let's be honest, these news outlets basically work for Google, and you're going to shit where you eat. I'm just saying, You can do that, absolutely. And I think we need more alternatives, but you better have an alternative in place before you do that. And then what's going to happen are these journos are going to complain when more layoffs come. Until there's clarity on California's regulatory environment, we're also pausing further investments in the California news ecosystem. Boy, it's a good thing it's not an election year. Including new partnerships through Google News Showcase, our product and licensing program for news organization, and planned expansion of Google News. Better approach. It undermines news in California. We don't take these decisions lightly. We want to be transparent with California publishers, lawmakers, and our users to avoid the outcome where all parties lose and the California news industry is left worse off. We urge lawmakers to take a different approach. For more than 2 decades, we provide substantial support to help news publishers navigate the changing digital landscape and innovate. We've rolled out Google News Showcase, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, they're basically like, you guys need to play ball with us and not do this. So back to NPR. Stories from California-based news organizations will not be available for an unspecified number of state residents who use Google to search the web. So they're going to try it, A/B testing. It's an approach Google has deployed before in the face of laws forcing the company to pay for journalism. Critics of the tech giant's hardball tactics have compared it to blackmail. In this particular case, like, look, I mean, I think you can make a damn good case that, companies like Google are scraping websites for content for AI. Okay. If Google themselves were publishing the news content or republishing it and you weren't getting compensated for it, yeah, but that's not what's going on. They're basically just linking to your website. And they don't have to do that. That's what I'm saying. Like, they don't have to. So it is, I think it's actually blackmail on the part of California news outlets to force Google to pay for traffic. Like I said, it used to be the other way around. You would advertise your website on Google to get traffic. In California, the pending law in question would force tech companies like Google and Meta to pay publishers for news content. If it's on the platform, if they actually take it and put it on the platform, yes. If they're just linking to it, I don't see why they have to do that. Just be like, well, then we're not going to link to your content anymore. Problem solved. I don't agree with this. Google has been resisting the bill, arguing that being subject to what calls a link tax for connecting California residents is unworkable. In his blog post, the exec said that the pending legislation is a wrong approach. If passed, it may result in significant changes. We read that. The blackout of California news articles is in anticipation of the bill passing. In 2023, Google made $307 billion, mostly through digital advertising. Yeah, so this is where I'm completely confused. Google is sending traffic to your website, but you're running ads, Google ads on your website, and you're getting paid for that. And you're getting like half of that. Like, Google splits it like 50-50 with the publisher, right? I think that's what the terms are. So I'm completely confused how you're not being compensated. It sounds to me like you're not getting enough traffic because nobody's reading your shit. So now you're going to try to make Google pay you extra so you can stay in business. But it's not Google's fault that nobody's reading your shit because they've been linking to it all this time. Just nobody wants to read your shit. I'm just saying that's how it comes across to me. Now, I do believe that, again, part of the algorithm change is in anticipation of less reliance on news media outlets. So I think because Canada did this too, the link tax. Germany, I guess, is doing it or tried to do it too. Because of these tactics, because of California and Canada and Germany or whoever else is doing this link tax shit, I think everybody else is suffering for it. I think you basically put the screws to journalism as a whole because Google is like, fine. If everybody's going to get the bright idea to make us pay for links to their website after like 30 years of us not doing that, we're just going to turn off the links and we're going to create the AI news ourselves. And I think that's what's going on. And I think that might have always been the end goal because they can, they can keep that stuff in-house. But I think you've just hastened, I think by doing this, you have just hastened the demise of journalism, of digital journalism. Because I think to protect their own ass, not have to pay out the nose to these websites bitching about it, they're just going to be like, yeah, well, we're Google bitches. Everybody goes here first, so we'll just make our own damn news. And that's it. We'll just give people an AI snippet. We'll link them to YouTube, whatever we got to do. But we're not going to send them to your website. Because I'm seeing it now. If you go to Google and you type in most subjects, you will see AI and YouTube at the top of the page where news used to be. So, when we're trying to get to the bottom of why digital journalism is collapsing and why Google is making these algorithm changes, I think this factors into it. I don't think it's everything, but I think it's absolutely factoring into why they're doing what they're doing and why it's seemingly penalizing websites that are not based in California, websites that are not based in this country are getting penalized because of this. Google and Meta have developed something of a playbook in response to efforts requiring tech giants to financially support the ailing news industry. Spokesperson for Meta did not reply to questions about whether it too would begin restricting California news. Meta had promised to do so. I think it's desperation. They're desperate and they're going to extort Google and Facebook. But again, you don't shit where you eat. You built your business model on links from these websites, from these search engines, from these social media platforms, and then you're going to turn around. Like I said, I can totally see them paying if they're republishing your news. Like if Facebook were taking your articles and posting them, which they tried to do. They had the Facebook, I forget what it was called, but they were trying to basically get you to publish directly on their platform. If they were just taking your content, sucking it off of your website and republishing it on the platform without a link to your website where you have a chance to make money, I could completely understand this. But that does not seem to be what's going on here. They're just linking to your content, and your content has ads on it. And again, if people aren't going to your content, that's a you problem. But now you've just made sure that they're not going to go to your content because they're going to shut it off. I said Canada's law. They talked about Canada. It was patterned after similar legislation in Australia. Under the California measure, Google and Meta would have to pay news outlets for selling advertising against news links. What? Democratic Assembly member Buffy Wicks, who sponsored the bill, said at least 100 news organizations in the state have closed in the past decade. You're not helping, Buffy. You're Buffy the newsroom slayer is what you are. You're not helping. You just, again, you don't shit where you eat. This bill is about basic fairness. It's about ensuring platforms pay for the content they repurpose. That's not what you're talking about. Links. Again, if they're repurposing your content, if they're scraping your content for AI or whatever, that's a totally different thing. This is just links to websites. So it tells me that Buffy here doesn't understand how it actually works. Wicks argues the bill would infuse California's news industry with much needed support in a moment in which publishers have seen subscriptions and advertising revenue decline. This is a you problem. Not a Google problem. I mean, it is a Google problem in the fact that, you've depended solely on Google for traffic, but this is a you problem. Nationwide, more than 20,000 media jobs were slashed last year alone. It was the highest figure since 2020 when they laid off 30,000 workers. But other industries are doing fine. Outside of media, outside of tech, outside of journalism, people are hiring. Like, I know here in Western PA, like, every damn business you go to, they're desperately looking for people to work. So you could very easily pivot from news, and you'll probably get paid more. I'm going to be honest. You're probably going to get paid more working some other job in some other industry than you would working at some blog, game blog or something. I'm being honest here. At least 70% of digital advertising has been collected by Google and Meta, according to Insider. Okay, so it's 70-30 split. The Department of Justice has sued Google over its grip on digital advertising with federal officials. Yeah, but you put Google ads on your site too. That's what I'm saying. Like, which is it? If I guess my thing is like, if you have such a problem with Google, and it is possible, you can sell advertising directly. You don't need Google, but you need Google. So you're going to threaten them. You know what I'm saying? Like if you were, I don't get it. This is stupid. You're going to hasten your own death. California advocates of the bill say Silicon Valley has a responsibility to pay news publishers for the astronomical profits it's reaped from serving people news articles. But they're getting paid. They're getting paid a big chunk of, I don't know. Basically, people are putting the ad blockers on and they're not subscribing. So they're going to try to squeeze Google and they're going to push back. Yet big tech companies have not been the only ones critical of the push. Other skeptics said if a free for display advertising links were applied to the rest of the internet, would break the open web by making information less accessible. In a post on X, formerly Twitter, Christina Warren, an outspoken advocate for software engineers, called the payments for hyperlinks obscene, since they're against the open web and everything it stands for. Advocates of the bill, which also introduced last year but did not gain traction, are hoping it advances and reaches Governor Newsom, who has not weighed in on the legislation. For more than a decade, tech giants built the world's most valuable companies off the backs of journalists, while siphoning off revenue from news publishers by creating digital advertising monopolies. But you let them. You let them. I did work for a publication at one point that we did direct ad sales. We did mostly direct ad sales. I mean, you need people to do that, but people are so damn lazy now. I mean, most newsrooms, they have people go out and beat the bushes looking for display advertising. You just switch it to digital and be like, fine, you want to advertise on our website, but you have to get traffic to your website, right? Your website's not worth anything unless you have traffic. So where's the traffic going to come from if you piss off Google, if you piss off Facebook? I'm just saying, I don't agree with this. And this is coming from a publisher, right? This is coming from somebody who's been doing this for 20 years. I don't agree with this because they're not taking your content. They're just providing links. I think it's stupid. I think you're going to hasten the death of digital journalism because you're going to cut the traffic off. You're going to cut your nose off to spite your own face. And that's going to be it. And some people are going to be like, yeah, fantastic. But I think it's going to hurt everybody. I personally think part of the algorithm change is in anticipation of this, that Google is going to be more dependent on its own resources and its own news that it has access to, and pulling news from other places, even other countries. I've noticed some other countries' news getting aggregated more than it used to. And it's all in anticipation of this, I think. I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.